Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce you to Mr. Sherman Ong, our local videographer, director.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Um, Actually, this talk is an informal talk. I think Bert asked me to talk a bit relating to Tengkera. So I have a cousin who started a temple in Tengkera, and then but the temple is no longer here. It's in Pantai 2, near to Baba Charlie. Yeah, just before Charlie, there was a temple there before. But what I wanted to present is actually about, and that temple is connected to another temple in the center. So, and I think what I wanted to talk about is also about the stories about Melaka. So I think the opening statement here it says a lot about Melaka. It says that Melaka is full of ghosts with tales to tell. But so if you wait in the evening, then you walk along. So I mean, this is from a book by this travel writer. It's called Fortune Teller Told Me. So I think Melaka has many layers of history. It has many layers of different people. People come and go at different points in time. So um, for me, the talk about this temple is not really about the temple. It's more about the story behind the temple. So I'm going to show you this particular temple. I think this is the temple that I'm talking about. I don't know whether you're familiar. This temple is just after the Cheng Hun Teng temple. And then as you go out, it's on the left. So this temple was, have you seen this temple? Huh? Yeah, Jalan Portuguese. So this temple was started by my great-grandmother. So she is known as this Bibi Pulau Pinang. And she came from Penang. She was an orphan. So she was married to Melaka, and the husband was 60 something, and she was only 18 at that time. So she was the fourth wife. And because the husband, and she only met the husband on the wedding day. So this is what I heard from my mother, and my mother heard it from her grandmother, okay? So it's just many layers down. So my mom was telling me that she cried for 1 month, because she is an orphan, so the relatives wanted to marry her as soon as possible. So when she came to Melaka, the husband was in the funerary business. They have a coffin shop. And then so what happens, she is the fourth wife, and then she has to take care of, and imagine she's only 18 years old, and the husband is almost 60, my mom says 66 years old. So there are actually the husband's granddaughter and grandchildren who are older than her or almost her age. So, and when the husband came down from China, he brought down these deities from China. And I think we call it Siong Kong lah. And then, and the other name I think is the Kwan Tek Chun Ong. So he brought down, here there are, in the temple there's two deities here. Yeah. So we have one of it this is in my house. So actually at that time they brought, so I think this temple was like more than 100 years old, I think. Yeah, the exact date I'm not too sure. So, but what I think this stories also I wanted to show is that this is where they live. This is actually opposite the, how do I go from one by one? It keeps moving. Huh? Tak boleh. Okay. So this house is is number 88 Hiran Street. It's opposite the Tan Kim Seng ancestral home. So this is this is the great-grandmother, the one that you saw earlier. And then this is actually in one house, you see they have many families. I think there are about 7 families staying in one house. So my great-grandmother first stayed in the temple, and then they rented this place, and then they moved here. So the story was that when the husband passed away, when the husband was 80 plus, she was only 38. So she's not educated. She has to find a way to support the family. So in this case, she had four children of her own, and then one was the husband had an affair with a lady, and then the child they take it as their own. She took the child, and then also this is the lady that. Let me show you the next one. Okay. This is the lady that eventually is connected to the temple in Tengkera, but she is actually the granddaughter of her husband. So this one means the granddaughter became the daughter. Yeah, because the granddaughter because the husband is is quite old, like 60 plus. So the granddaughter was already of a certain age. So when the husband died, this daughter became the daughter of my great-grandmother. So that was how it was all connected lah. I mean, in the olden days, that's how it is. Sometimes, so your granddaughter became your daughter. So, and this is the family. This is one of her son. So they were staying also in Tengkera. I think now most of them has dispersed already. So from here, I wanted to bring you back a bit. So as you can see, this my great-grandmother, she has her eldest. So what happens was that she had difficulty having biological children. So and then when the husband passed on, the only way she could fend for herself was that she went to learn from. We never knew who were her mentors, but she learned from a Malay guru, and then she also learned to become a medium. So she does her specialization is in children's problems. So I think the older generation of Hiran Street would know her as Bibi Pulau Pinang. So apparently she's also quite close to the Mrs. Chibehun. So they go. So Mrs. Chi always comes to her and asks for like tengok, like look for which is a good day to do things and all that. So and then she had a son, which is my grandfather. This one. So when at that time, before him, she had 2 other children that just died at childbirth. And then she managed to get him. And then according to, the Tongsu lah, they follow the Chinese annals that he cannot live with her. He couldn't live with her. So he was fostered out to a Malay family. Yeah. So in a kampong, he stayed in a kampong. We don't really know which kampong, but he stayed with a family, with a Malay family, and then he was playing. And then he only came back into the family when he was 12 years old. So he's quite a rascal. And he's also quite a womanizer. And he's also, so he's really, my mom says he's like a daredevil, because he would play in the river, and then at that time in the river what's this? This is the ancha. The people they buang ancha. Ancha is a kind of offering. I think I'm touching also on the animistic tradition of this region. This is the ancha. The ancha is actually made, there are many uses of the ancha. Ancha is also used as a kind of bayaniat lah. Like you make an offering, and most of the time it's to the spirit. Let's say, in this case, is this done also the Ma Mary people of Selangor also uses the ancak. And then in the south, where's the other one? Okay. In the southern islands of Bangka and Belitung, they have these, what we call them as the Orang Laut. They also do this, they call this Buang Jong. That means they make a ship, and then inside, the things that they have inside is actually like berteh. Berteh is actually like popcorn, but it's made of rice, toasted rice. Then you have the nasi kuning or the nasi kunyit, and then you have telur, and then you have other things. So these are apparently food for the orang halus lah, or the makhluk halus or the spirit. So what they do is that when do you produce this ancak? Is that, for example, you have a spiritual disturbance. So they do prayer, and then they bring this ancak into the sea, and then they release it there. It's also to get them to follow the ancak and then to release. So my grandfather will be playing in the river, and then he'll be eating all this. He tells me that, he said, oh, we eat all this, I just take the egg and eat. And then he's like, really, he couldn't care less. But it's also, what I felt was interesting is that Melaka at that time, there was this very mixed of the Chinese, like in this case, my grandmother just gave to the Malay family to just foster him out. And he lived with the Malay family until he was 12. He was playing with the buffaloes and in the sawah padi and all that. And then, after 12, that was when he's older, and this was when he was younger, right? And this was like, so what happens is that staying opposite the house, was a family who is from a very old trading family, which is the Tan Kim Seng family. And one of the branch of the family live here. So as a young guy, his mother-in-law liked him. So then they were always got estates and plantation. So he will always bring him to the estate and plantation. So he becomes like this hero or something. So what happens, like one day in the plantation, something happened, and then there was a swarm of bees that came to attack them. So he carried his future mother-in-law and ran. And then he protected her from the bees. This is the real story. Okay. And then the future mother-in-law was so impressed with him and said, okay, I want you to marry my daughter. So that's how he married into one of the descendants of the Tan Kim Seng family. So that was my mother. That was my grandmother. Right? So so they were just staying opposite each other. So in that time, in that period, okay, I will. So this is it's like Hiran Street is not always a place for the rich, the perception that we have, the stereotype is that all the rich people, but there are also rented houses. And it so happened in this case, his family, my grandfather's family, lived opposite the Tan Kim Seng descendants. So the mother-in-law took a liking and then got him married. And then he told me before that he was working in the fingerprint department of the CID with the government here. So after marriage, then the mother-in-law said, no, you don't have to work, you just collect rent for me. So what he does is that, so he quit his job, so you collect rent, and then after that, what do? You just take care of the plantation, you just help your mother-in-law to collect rent, and then after that, in the evening, you send them back home, and then he goes to the nightclub. Yeah. So this is the situation of the typical, I'm not sure whether it's typical, but at least in his life is the Baba family of that period. And then this is, before I go back, I just wanted to bring back here. So you see this lady, and that's me actually. So this is the funeral of my great grandmother, the Bibi Pulau Pinang. Okay. So before I go this, so he married. So okay, after he got married with the Tan Kim Seng family, then he had my mum lah. He had my mum. So my mum grew up in Hiran Street. So this is in Hiran Street. So this is my mum and my dad. So I think, and then he appeared in Berita Harian at that time in 1970. Yeah. So this is my mum and dad. This is in Bukit Baru. So my dad is the Ong side from Bukit Baru. So my mom's side is from Hiran Street. They met in Alok Gajah. So my mom is a school clerk. So my dad was a primary school teacher. So they met in Alok Gajah. So all these things, like how it's all connected. So but then I wanted to go back a bit to because since we are talking about temples and the spiritual connection to temples, right? Okay, this is my mom in the house of 88 Hiran Street. I think, so okay, let's stop here. So for my grandfather, I mean, this is what I hear from my mother, and my mother hears from someone higher up. So he said that he wanted to have a good life. So he said one day he was walking the street, then he met this, what do you say, like orang alim, someone like this mystic. So this mystic, and last time there's this I don't know, maybe the really older generation will know, this is Wak Saat. Have you all heard this Wak Saat? Wak Saat is this guy that is very well respected of that period. Then people would, and they know that apparently when he stops a bus, the bus will have to stop for him. Or else the bus goes a few more meters, then the bus will break down. So it's this kind of people that before there was mobile phones and all that, these are the people that actually has got different things, different skills. So this person asked my grandfather, my grandfather, saying that, what do you want a good life? And he said, but then maybe he could already see him what was it, right? So he could already see the situation. Then he said, yes, if you want, then you will have a good life, but it won't be long. It won't last long, and then it won't have a good ending. This was what my mom told me when after what happened. So you see, after he got married into the wife is from the Tan Kim Seng family, then because there was nothing to do for him, every day he goes to the nightclub, and then there he met another woman. So this woman eventually became the second wife, and then they moved to Singapore. Actually, they didn't really divorce, because it was just like the mother-in-law said, I think you should break ties. And then he just went to Singapore with the second wife. That's why I grew up always traveling back and forth between Singapore and. So my mom was. So the Peranakan families of that period was also, at least in this family, every child has a mak piara. Every child. So that means my mom's real mother didn't take care of her. So my mom's mak piara is actually this lady. Yeah. So she is from the husband's side. So then she has two others. So this is my mom. So this is actually in the house in Tengkera. I think it's there, but now this house has burned down already. So there was a fire. So this was the house in Tengkera. So this is the mak piara of my mother. So my mother has two other siblings. One is taken care by the mak piara, who is on the wife's side. And then another brother, younger brother, who is taken care by on the husband's side. So when the family split, these two sides also split. The children was also split. Yeah. So I think maybe some of my aunties here who are relatives here, now you understand why the families are split according to like who is the mak piara of the family. Yeah. So for me, I never really had contact with my grandmother until I was like 10 years old. Yeah, it was brought together by a caterer who was cooking for both families. And then he said, oh, do you want to see your grandson? So I mean, at that time, My mom was already 30 plus. She said she remembered she was like 38 or something. Then only she met her real mother. But she grew up looking at the mother. Her mother was just across the house at the window there. You can see the mother, but the relatives don't let you speak to the mother. You know, it's that kind of environment that they grew up in. Because they say this is the timun and that is the durian. The timun cannot mix with the durian. I mean, this, so that was the situation then. So I mean, this kind of thing, the hierarchy, the social class is always very prevalent, although all takes place on Hiran Street. So what happens now? How does it connect to the temple? So she has one of her son has another, her grandson. So her grandson, this lady, this Mak Piara, her grandson, when the grandson was born, then my great grandmother was looking at his peji lah, you know, his what do you call peji ah? What's the English term for it? Yeah, astrology. They always use the big book, the Tongsu. So my great grandmother was saying that, you know, when you are older, you will have to make a choice in your life whether you want to be a medium or you want to just take the other path lah. So at that time, this kid was like, you know, like 10, 12 years old. I mean, how is it? You must be joking. So I go to English school, and then how can I become a medium? You know, I don't know anything. So so after that, she passed away, and then after she passed away, then this is that's me lah. That time she passed away, I was like 6 or 7 years old like that. Yeah. So when she passed away, I didn't know what's happening. I was quite happy, just running around the grave, you know, playing with the soil. So that's my mom behind. That's her Mak Piara lah. The Mak Piara was quite close to my great grandmother. So this is the grave is in Jelutong. So by that time, of course, the two families, the Timun and the Durian already separated already, right? The Timun went to Singapore already. So true enough, like when my cousin, because it's her grandson, and then it's my cousin, when he was in his 30s, then he said that he get these strange dreams that come to him all the time. Yeah. So eventually, and then these dreams always directed him to do certain things. And then eventually he veered towards, okay, then I think I will veer towards this path lah, you know, to be a medium. So that's why by that time they've already they shifted to Tengkera. When my great grandmother passed away, all the families, they just moved out already. So that's why 88 now I think is owned by the person from Melaka House or something. It's opposite the ancestral home. So now when they moved to Tengkera, I think the house that got burned down, so my uncle, my cousin started, it's actually cousin and uncle, because if you look at the pangkat, right, the level, because he's actually has to be my cousin or even lower, but because she's adopted, so it's a bit confusing. So this is, okay, this is the Tengkera temple. I think now this was a receipt book and they still kept the name here. I think the temple is no longer here because they have moved to what's that? Okay, but Taman Merdeka. Yeah. So what I wanted to actually just say here is actually this. It's like Tengkera is a space that actually there's a lot of many layers of history that is not so obvious. That you have the Malay population and also the Chinese population, and there's links between here and the larger, because Tengkera is just off Hiran and then and Jonker. So I'm using the situation of this temple as a way to give you a broader picture of the people that live in this part, the old core zone and of the UNESCO area. And then maybe I just touch. So this is my dad. So my dad was, before his father was working with Tan Cheng Lock and Tan Siu Sin in the estates lah. So they were estate managers. So this was actually in Trendak camp. So they always had social ballroom, and then I think at that time the Ong family, Sekpo, was they organized a lot of social events. So he knew Sekpo and all that. So this was actually in Trendak camp, and then these are the officers. So my dad is there, the third from left. Yeah, that's him. So then these are the officers during this was after, I think after the war. Yeah, this is after the war. This is in the 60s, yeah, early 60s. And then, wait, so I don't have a clip of the temple, but I have that video clip, how to play, Yes. I want to go out, you know what? I'm going to show you a clip, but it's not from this temple, but it's similar in. Basically, the temple has a Taoist tradition. So this is in Singapore, but the clip. This is just to give you an overview of what Chinese medium in a temple would do. So this is a short clip. But this, of course, is a different deity. This is the Necha, the Lochia. So the temple that was here also had this kind of deities, but it's a different deity. So normally before you, let's say, consecrate a deity, they have to either, in this case, they use a chicken, or sometimes they use the burung pipit and they put the burung pipit inside the deity itself. And then so basically they use the soul of the living thing to put it inside the deity. I mean, that was from the Taoist perspective. I'm not sure whether now they still do this kind of ritual in the temples here. Okay, so I think this concludes my talk, and I want to, you have any questions, you can ask me on different aspects of growing up in Hiran Street and Tengkera. Yes. Ancak is a Malay word. Yeah, it's ancak. I think some of them, they call it the slang, they call it ancok also. And mostly this ancak is used by the coastal communities. Because some in just now I was talking about the orang Sekak, or the orang Sawang. They are from the Bangka Belitung area. So they are basically seafaring people. So they go into the sea, so they want protection. So they do this as a kind of prayer to the spirits of the sea. So that's why they have this, you can check on this Buang Jong, So basically the orang laut, in this region, you have three. One is the Riau Lingga area, and then you have another one, the Bajau, and then another one, the northern part, the Myanmar, the Moken people, and they also have this tradition. And nearer to Peninsula is the Mahmeri people. So they have this Puja Pantai ceremony for harvest. Each time after they are harvesting, season, or before they start a planting season, they have this Puja Pantai thing. Yeah. So that actually is an older adat of the region. Is this animistic reasons behind? Like I remember, like as a kid, we bayar niat as Masjid Kampung Hulu. I think after that in the 80s it was forbidden or something, right? Because I was in primary school, then each time Friday or something, my father would just deliver this nasi kunyit together with birthday, with pisang to the Masjid Kampung Hulu, and then they will cut a bit of the pisang, then I take back and then I makan. Then they say, okay, it's good. So I mean, that was the kind of syncretic tradition that we have in Melaka. So I think after that, after the 80s, I think when it encroaches into the 90s, the whole situation has changed. So there's more divisions. So that's why I wanted to bring out this ancak. I think a lot of the Malay community also may not know what is it, but it's actually an adat that is used, not only the Malay community, but also the Orang Aslis and all that. Yeah.
You say that one was you 7 years old.
Graveyard.
Graveyard.
No, they say the 7.
Yeah lah. Never mind. The boy is you lah. At the back is your mother. The one in front like Bibi. That one is.
That one is the
How your mother punya mak?
Mak Tiara.
Oh, mak is Tiara.
That means the like nanny lah. So last time the
Oh,
mother.
that one is not Bibi Pulau Pinang punya anak.
No, Pulau Pinang is inside the grave was 6 feet under.
No. What I mean is it that lady yang macam Bibi tu, is it not Bibi Pulau Pinang punya anak-anak?
Oh, that one is actually technically it's the husband's cucu.
You see what? How husband dia punya cucu?
From the second wife.
Oh.
She's the fourth
because
wife.
The second wife died already lah.
The wife died already.
Then she took the daughter because the wife died, so took the cucu.
No, it's not only the wife, the cucu. That's the cucu of the wife.
Oh.
So
What happened to the mother? The mother died already.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then took the cucu to become the anak.
Yeah.
Oh, like that.
So then
Very strange. That's why in the old days it's very strange like that.
So the cucu become
It's a common practice of Melaka. I know another case, but it is a common practice.
I think it happens because, but also at that time, sometimes the men, like in her case, the husband, she has like one eldest daughter. The eldest daughter was actually the offspring of the husband's relationship with another woman. It was this like accounting seller. Then he just take the anak and then pay money to the wife. Yeah. So I mean at that time I think the point also I wanted to say like you may think like the Peranakan families you have this very matriarchal, right? It's actually very patriarchal. The woman gained power by having male sons. That's how the women exert their position in the Peranakan family. And the more, I mean, you have the male sons and then the more sons you have, because your position will go up. But they are still playing, they are still within the confines of a very patriarchal system.
What I noticed lah, what I noticed, they follow the traditions of the old Chinese emperor's family.
Yeah.
Yes, similar. I mean, I always watch the Chinese series, similar, the way they behave lah. They got many wives and then they always they utamakan the sons lah.
Yeah. So I mean that's so some of those things I just hear
they
from my
follow
grandfather.
because of the
My grandfather kept telling me about his James Bond days with the mother-in-law. So apparently the Tan Kim Seng descendants, they always have a lot of balls. You know, like in Singapore, they have the Beng Sui ball and all that. So they are actually kind of they hobnobbed with the British people of that time as a business, to build business relationship. Yeah.
The elite class.
Yeah. So that's the thing that So my grandfather is like from the Timun class trying to go to the Durian class. So he just, so then of course, but this makes fodder for my kind of work because I create work in this area. My art practice is dealing with this kind of migration and the narratives that come out of migration, the stories that come out of this. So not every household in Hiran Street they are from the roots because there's also a lot of talented households. So the legacy from this lady is actually the temple that you see at this temple there. So at that time the husband I think brought 3 deities, the big one they brought down there, they equal the thing down, brought to Melaka. But I have no reason, I don't know why they did that.
Maybe it's the one, the temple down the street from Cheng Hu Cheng. After the mosque, isn't it? It's Portuguese Street. Yeah, near the mosque, right? No, this you're talking Cheng Hu Teng, right?
Cheng Hu Teng.
Cheng Hu Teng. Down the street there was one temple. I went in before.
Corner temple.
That temple is established by your grandmother lah. But the one at Tengkera, how is it?
Tengkera is established by this Mak Tiara's grandson.
Oh, that is Mak.
But they are actually the same.
Mak Tiara punya grandson, not your grandmother.
No, not my grandmother. The Tengkera one. But when it was that was predicted by my grandmother. Star that.
It means influence of Bibi Pulau Pinang lah.
At that time he had the same deity. Then when they opened here the other deities.
But the temple no more. That apa panggil dekat Tengkera tu no more.
No, they should to Taman Melaka.
The same deities lah.
Yeah. And now there's a temple from B and so but I think my family we go to like masjid, we go to Indian temple, we go to Chinese temple. It's like I grew up with this kind of situation, so it's like it's very next. You go to Kramat, you bayar niat in Kramat and all that. So it's
like that.
I think the only thing that we don't step in is the church. Because it's a different system, I guess.
I think you get involved. Because a lot of Prana cards, like me, I'm a Buddhist. But we go to the St. Peter's Church quite frequently also. When they call Datuk Mati. They call that Good Friday lah. But we went because it's actually what Jesus Christ crucified, right? That's why they call that. I don't know, peranakan tu kata dah mati lah. So we went there. We always go there and then we go to the Mary's. Although we are Buddhist, but we go to the Mary's statue and touch her ankle.
So that's the.
So
I think that's.
it's like inter-religious.
We are kind of like everything a bit. That's why we are not. That's why the term I think orang Cina bukan as well. But I think for all Malaysians it should be orang Melayu bukan Melayu, orang India bukan India. Because that's where you can forge the Malaysian identity.
Unity.
You actually lose something and then you gain something from somewhere else. Okay. Any other question?